Hi everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Let's talk about complexity theory and the edge of chaos on these two articles from Margolis and Sans Margolis and Murphy. I'm kind of feeling like I'm living chaos right now. To start with, the first article, he discusses productive complexity. He analyzes it with a teacher leadership framework chart on page 404, where he provides a series of different complexity theories and then their descriptors. It's very complete and I don't know, there's a lot to it. When I go through that chart, I think, wow, teacher leaders are so busy. But this article ends with 4 vignettes or stories, which I think is a perfect way for him to kind of bring the different qualities of that chart into real life situations for us to be able to learn from. The first one resonated most with me because I felt like the woman Suzanne was just trying to learn. She was eager and she wanted to do the best she could, and it was kind of a grassroots, kind of ground up the way that I saw it, and I thought I was really impressed with that. He also discusses in this article the different reform initiatives. The first one, the systemic, reminded me of a TOSA or a teacher on special assignment situation. I've seen that happen a couple times in my school for initiatives, but not necessarily for complexity theory in our district. And then the other different types, the professional, instructional, and resource, all based on that page 404 leadership framework chart. Then he goes on to discuss the interactive versus reactive aspect of leadership, which I thought that was especially important because I think when leaders don't pay attention to the feedback that they're getting, it makes it impossible for them really to take a proactive approach, and more often than not, they're actually reacting to situations that show up. And I really liked his phrases here about using teacher observations and communication as guides for customization of measures for growth. So listening to the feedback from the teachers to guide kind of where they want to go next, and then looking at disequilibrium as a catalyst for growth and not something to be avoided. That was on page 405. I thought that was awesome too. And then the next article was an exploratory case study in which I felt like this study leaned more on the actual system than on the individual teacher. Even though the artifacts were from individual teachers and the feedback from these teachers once they had completed their time as teacher leader. I thought this was a great way to do it. And also the one thing that struck me that he mentions in here is once they coded all of the teacher leader accounts, and figured out what all they said, they took those findings and made their decisions based on what fit, I guess. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but they kind of like, after they coded, they could take that information and figure out how that would best use their study. Like he said that he only used 3 out of the 8 ideas in it, or questions that they put out, and I thought that was very telling, and I thought that was kind of making me think that I could do that in my approach too, because I'm going to be using interviews and observations, and I think that if I can kind of code them and kind of direct that study towards my topics of trust and relationship building, that would be super helpful for me. And then the thing that really struck me on this article is he does discuss how it's hard to measure these outputs in this study. Like they're trying to measure things that are not concrete and easy to measure. So the coding of these teachers' responses were very important. And then At the end, he talks about trust, and that is something that I'm also going to be using in my work. And the elements of communication and trust were just prevalent throughout this whole study, and I intend to make that prevalent throughout mine as well. He notes on page 24 that relationships, if they were lacking, the teacher leaders were not successful. So that relational trust is actually necessary, right? Conditional on bidirectional trust and communication. So that's it, and I'm running out of time. I hope this all makes sense to you. The feedback loops are the only way I think that the edge of chaos and complexity can really work. If you don't understand what is happening, if the leadership doesn't understand what is happening, how people are feeling, it's just not going to work. So my time is up. So thank you for your time, and I hope I didn't ramble too much, and have a great day.